I am not a person. I am a line of dry salt whitening the deck, the crystallized memory of a wind already gone, of a story that has no one left to tell it. I once clung to someone's heel, fell grain by grain into a path that led back to an emptiness. On this ship, everything had its place, except people. A ship's bell can still ring if the wind is right. The hatch to the hold still breathes a chill of alcohol, sharp as a warning. The chart table, parallel ruler, compass, everything waits for a hand that no longer exists. My name isn't in the logbook. But I watched the footfalls thin, then vanish from the deck like white salt licked clean by the sea. Do you want a story where silence is the main witness? Step aboard. Don't let too much salt cling to your shoes. It will whisper what no one likes to hear. Some ships need only one thing missing, people, to become legend. Early December 1872, one ship sights another. The Dei Gratia meets the Mary Celeste somewhere between spray and fog in the North Atlantic near the Azores. Mary Celeste moves alone. No distress signal. No wave from the rail. Only canvas set just enough. Her course vague like a sleepwalker. When the boarding party climbs over, 0.6 they find what is still there: food, water, instruments. And what is not, the longboat. A logbook that ends days before. A cargo hold that exhales industrial alcohol, sharp enough to sting the eyes. A pump that sounds like a sore throat. And yet, the hull, oddly, is sound enough to sail on. We move from a scene where everything is here as if nothing is, to the names, those fates that stepped aboard and did not step off. The name Benjamin Briggs, a respected captain, devout, meticulous enough that every knot had a reason. His wife Sarah, and their young daughter Sophia, a warm spark carried into an iron-cold ocean. A tidy crew, men who knew they were small bolts in the vast machine of the sea. They left port to shepherd cargo that seemed inert, industrial alcohol, casks dark and heavy, trust-like questions no one had asked yet. They say every tragedy begins with a belief that everything will be fine. Let's see how that belief enters the last day of the log. The charts place her near the Azores. The final entry is days before Mary Celeste is found. Between that timestamp and discovery, for a white interval, like an empty crossword square, like the rest between two notes that changes the whole melody. There's water in the bilge, not enough to sink her, but enough to worry a careful mind. The pump speaks hoarsely, clogged, perhaps half broken. The longboat missing like the answer everyone seeks. And alcohol fumes, the kind that cuts straight up the nasal spine. Like a memory of fire that didn't happen, or barely didn't. In noir, truth rarely walks into the light. It wears a hat, soft shoes, and clears the scene before the police arrive. A number of casks may have leaked. Vapor collects in the closed hold into an explosive mix. No flame required. Sometimes a static spark is enough for the air to expand suddenly. A pressure boom that scares more than it burns. Picture it. A sound leaves no char, only fear hanging like invisible smoke. A prudent captain might order, "Lower away, we quit the ship for the moment." A towing line is bent on between longboat and ship, while wind is given time to thin the vapor. But the sea promises nothing. A shift of wind, a snap of rope, a hungry wave swallowing the small distance between wood and wood. Mary Celeste sails on, quiet in the longboat. 0.4, carrying everyone, drifts away. If fear was the reason to leave, The sea was the reason they could not return. But what else? A waterspout, a vertical smoke of water, a giant cigar pulling sea to sky, could have slapped the deck, soaking everything, fouling the pump, leaving the hold wet enough to feel like the ship was being eaten from the inside. Then leaving was not panic, but calculation. A chess player sacrificing pieces to save the king. But if it was only wind and water, why were the most vital things missing from the table? Let's glance at the chart room again. Reports mention some instruments not in their usual places. Pause 6, a sextant or a chronometer. The eyes of a sailor under the sky. If so, the decision to quit ship was planned, not a stampede. A family, a captain's wife and child, do not abandon by impulse. They leave believing they will return. Faith is a hawser. It holds until something unseen, whether fate or a half-second late decision, severs it. Industrial alcohol can damage or swell surrounding materials, skewing level indicators and making a watchkeeper misread bilge water. Picture it. A sky the color of pewter. Gusts punching the rig. The pump hacking like an old cough. You check the rod, and it seems the ship will sink slowly. Then a temporary abandonment to wait for gentler weather becomes the most rational choice a father makes, especially with wife and child aboard. If reason brought them down into the boat, what feeling held them to the ship? We must enter rooms with no people, using silence as a key. No meal left steaming. No sign of struggle. No blood, not the kind of mystery that demands knives and silhouettes. 0.8. Only meat incompletion. Something just begun, something waiting to be resumed, something that never continued. When there's no handy crime to clutch at, noir turns to the shadows of motive. Some say greed, some say plot. Let's click that flashlight on. Pirates? Feudal. The cargo remains. Personal effects aren't swept away as by thieves. Insurance fraud? At sea, people sometimes whisper of scuttling, sinking your own ship for payout. But Mary Celeste didn't sink. And the witnesses, the ordinary things left behind, say no hurried hand tore this place apart to stage a scene. Mutinal? Men selected for a passage carrying the captain's family. Did they do something rash and leave no trace of it? When noir sifts the speculation, many theories fall through the mesh. With crime refusing to stand and be counted, the sea lays out the rest. Weather's error term, luck's multiplier. Another picture. The longboat hitched astern with a tow line. A skewed gust? A heaving sea? A fore or a hurried knot? The line wedges, then parts. Distance between hulls turns into the space between two sentences in a letter never finished. The larger ship holds wind better. The boat, carrying everyone, slides back. And the ocean, like a ruthless editor, cuts away the rest of the paragraph. It's a tragedy without a witness, no survivor to tell it. Noir then borrows the voice of objects, like the salt line that spoke at the start. Sketch him in silence. A man reading scripture in a small cabin, dotting each verse as he would a stitch on canvas. Every choice a moral theorem, not loud but firm. To bring wife and child along is a promise that this passage is safe, at least in what he judged. You may not share his theology. You will trust his discipline. In the way the deck is lashed, the sails are flaked. Everything stands where it should, except for people. Such a portrait fades wilder theories. Noir returns the pen to the sea. The sea needs no weapon. It has time and distance. It erases legally, leaving no exhibit to debate. At sea, a small error in position becomes a gap you can't close if you're in a boat pushed by contrary wind. Maritime noir has no street lamps, only the border between life and lost that no one draws. So what do we do with legend? We deconstruct it, keep the haunting, discard the decorations. No meal left steaming. No black cat dozing on the captain's desk. No blade swinging, no arterial spray on the mast like a movie. Only the clean absence, the kind of mystery a narrator must respect. When we strip away the carnival, what remains is a human question. Which decision, at what second, made a family believe temporarily leaving was right? In English, and for a second is a slice of time. A secword is nothing. Missaid, misheard, a rope spoken wrong. They chose a second to step down. They trusted a line to lead them back. History's noir often hides in pair words like those. A letter shifts, a life veers. We return to the witness that met us first, the salt on deck. What else does it testify? The salt says there were many steps, not frantic, but decisive. A short halt near starboard, where a towline might be made fast. No erratic cadence of a fight. Finally, a long blank, no one walking back. Noir leaves such blanks for imagination. We will not fill them with monsters, but with meteorology and human judgment. Confronted with risk, the human brain chooses temporary solutions. A temporary abandonment is a simple math. If vapor clears, return. If the pump recovers, return. If the sea eases, return. But some ifs never happen. Then the temporary becomes a sentence. 1. There remains one more layer, the latecomers, those who walked into a still life of objects and tried to finish a chess game, missing pieces. They board Mary Celeste, inspect, enumerate. They write, seaworthy, cargo present, boat gone. The administrative tongue of the sea doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell stories either. Storytelling is our job, and noir, when it behaves, tells with reverence for what didn't come back. So we narrate in a way that doesn't betray them, a frame of known, unknown, testable, set to a noir beat. What we know, 6. Mary Celeste was found unmanned yet seaworthy. The longboat was missing, signs point to a deliberate abandonment. Alcohol fumes were strong, likely leakage from certain casks. The pump was inoperable or unreliable. The bilge held water, not enough to sink her. The logbook ended days earlier. What we do not know, which second the order to abandon was given. Why they couldn't return, snapped line, wind, sea, or a distance that grew too wide. The fate of the longboat. What can be modeled, tested? Gas simulations, vapor concentration, and the feasibility of a fireless pressure pop sufficient to terrify. 0.3. Pump and gauge trials with swollen wood to measure bilge misread. Wind and sea modeling with a towed boat at varying angles, estimating probabilities of parted line and failure to overtake the mother ship. Now a gift to noir, a recollection written like a log, but authored by Salt. No day, no hour. I watch the man they call Captain peer into the hold. Eyes narrowing as if reading an invisible caution. He turns away, says something short. No one argues. They do what people do when they trust one another. They use few words. The small girl grips her mother's hand. That hand is warm. I know because salt doesn't cling to warm skin as much as to fear. Lines are made fast. Something small, perhaps a sextant, is carried out. No one looks at the ship like a thing to be thrown away. They look at it as home to return to. Then the wind shifts. The pump makes the sound of a tired cough. And there's a noise you won't hear unless you are salt. The sound of faith stretching by a hair, just wide enough for the world to pass through. When the recollection dims, noir brings us back to now. A ship, a legend, a fog unwilling to lift. If they could send a note, it might be a single line. We did the right thing in that second. History is cruel to right choices in wrong conditions. It calls them mysteries, drapes their necks with masks of legend. But noir, at its best, is compassion for the dark. And you, standing on a wet deck, scent of alcohol in the air, the pump hacking, what would you do? Some mysteries require no culprit. They require a decision, a gust, a grope, a rope, and enough time to turn everything into legend. Mary Celeste is one of those ships. It lacked exactly one thing, people, and so became a ghost ship. Listen carefully when waves tap old planks. His yaw goes 6, and you'll hear salt sliding beneath a heel, whispering in a voice so small. We were there. We left to come back. We just didn't make it.